All right, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, Mike.
Thank you. Project, Steve, project. Welcome to our afternoon sessions, specifically the Workforce Innovation Preparing Students for the Jobs of Today session at the I-7075 Development Summit. I will just note that when I proposed this session to the panelists, I actually thought I was being cute by, I actually had a strike through on today, or actually I had tomorrow and I had strike through on tomorrow and then mark today, but that didn't make it through the printing, so I was a little sad. But, and as I digress, when we thought about putting this session together, for those of you who are dealing with companies and in the economic development field, 90% of what we're hearing is workforce. How do you get me people? How do you get me skilled people? And so because it's such an important topic, we thought that it was important to highlight at the summit. And I had the pleasure of introducing three experts in the field who are going to tell you a little bit about what their individual institutions are doing, and then also some of the partnerships more broadly. So with that, I'd like to introduce Rhonda Phillips, who's the Assistant Superintendent for MVCTC. Rhonda has a BS degree from The Ohio State University and a master's from Wright State. Rhonda was previously an agricultural education teacher, professional development coordinator, supervisor, and director, and she's been actively involved with career and technical education for 24 years. So welcome, Rhonda. Dave Deskins, the superintendent of the Greene County Career Center. Dave recently led a successful bond issue campaign that will culminate in the construction of a new career center south of Xenia that will house an all-current program and accommodate expansion into career areas related to aerospace and aviation. Prior to his appointment at GCCC in 2014, he served as the Director of Human Resources at Penta Career Center near Toledo and as the Superintendent for Archibald Local Schools in Northwest Ohio. So, Dr. Deskins, welcome. And last but not least, Michael Deis, Director of the Russ Research Center for Ohio University. Mike has more than 35 years of experience in research, development, test, and evaluation for the U.S. Air Force, Army, Navy, and joint programs. Michael is a veteran with 23 years of service and is a retired member of the Senior Executive Service and was previously the director of the Sensors Directorate for the Air Force Research Laboratory, or AFRL, at Wright-Patterson. Michael was most recently with Treble One as a senior consultant and the Wright State Research Institute, where he was the Director of Advanced Research and Development and Business Development. So, Michael, welcome. So with that, I will get out of the way, and I will let our panelists give you the information that they came here to. We'll have questions at the end, so please, if you have them, please hold them. So with that. So with that, Rhonda Phillips.
Now they're all leaving me. Look at this.
Mass exodus.
I know. Well, welcome and good afternoon. Thank you for joining us this afternoon for this panel. And I'm going to start with talking about Miami Valley Career Technology Center, and then each of us are going to rotate, really with the ultimate goal is how we're preparing the workforce for today. And I like to think also for tomorrow. We need both. We have to think about what is going on today, but also in the future. And that's what I want to start with, an overview about Miami Valley Career Technology Center. And I have some brochures up here afterwards if you're needing more information, and plus the question time. So I'll get started with a little bit about us in case you've never heard of who we are or what we do. We were established in 1971. And we serve approximately 5,000 high school students and middle school students, and over 27 districts, which takes in close to 4,000 square miles. And some people don't realize the geographic area, so that's why I included a map, that we go all the way north in northern Darke County to Mississinawa Valley, but all the way south down to Warren County, Carlisle, and along the state line. So we do have a large geographic area that then go into our main campus, which is located on Hoke Road, right outside of Inglewood. If you see the red dots, that's when I mentioned the middle school, high school programs. In addition to what we have on main campus as juniors and seniors, we also go out and work with 7th through 12th graders at our local districts through satellite programming. And what we have found when we say the future workforce of tomorrow, we need to start educating students about manufacturing, about some of the high demand careers at an early age, including 7th grade. So that's why we've expanded into satellite programs starting as young as 7th grade in many of the districts where you see the red dot. So another unique part of our district is the diversity. If you look, we go from very rural Dark County to a very urban district. So we have a very diverse population. What's amazing is when they get on campus, which we have close to 2,000 students under one roof, the diversity makes us stronger. And you've asked our students, that's what our strength is the diversity. And within that diversity is the offering of career tech programs. And here in a couple minutes, I'll show you a short video, but we have over 40 different career tech programs, whether it's healthcare, whether it's manufacturing, whether it's construction. We have a variety and diversity of those programs. As I mentioned earlier, our satellite program, as we look at developing the workforce of tomorrow, starting at that 7th grade, being able to offer career tech education, and especially in high-demand jobs at an earlier age. And then we offer some unique opportunities for our Project Search program down at Miami Valley Hospital South. And we also, the Youth Connections, where those are students that are at risk of not graduating, that we pull into our Youth Connections. We work with them to get that high school diploma, to make them marketable and make them employable. And in addition to that, I'll touch on later on, is our Adult Ed program, where we serve another 5,000 students as adults, whether that's through LPN or construction. And those are individuals that are outside of the high school coming back for further education and further training. So we want to provide those premier educational opportunities to both secondary and adult education. We identify the industry needs, and we help, this is the strong point, we help the students identify their career and college goals. It's about choices. Some of them will go straight into the workforce. Some of them will continue on with post-secondary. Some of them will continue on with their further education. But it's about giving those students those opportunities wherever their path they choose to attend, that they follow those, and we give them those opportunities. Our technical skills and how to keep a job. We get this a lot when we work with students, and some of you in business and industry also say, okay, we have them, we hired them, but how do we keep them? Because sometimes they need that extra coach, that extra person to keep them on the job, to help them show up on time, to help them know what the proper work behavior is. So I look at our district as that in-between person that we're trying to get them employable along with the skills. They might have the greatest skills, but if they're not employable, that doesn't do anyone any good. So we are working both on those employability skills along with the technical skills. Now, how do we set this up with the high school? Those students that choose to come from those 27 districts I shared earlier, they actually spend half of their day in their career tech lab. For juniors, it's in the morning, and they get the full academics in the afternoon. Their English, their math, their social studies, their science are all in the afternoon. And we have industry-trained instructors. So we have a gentleman that we just hired for HVAC last year. He came directly out of the HVAC industry, and he is teaching them those skills. So he has at least 5 years experience in HVAC, comes in and he's taking education classes while he's teaching so that he can teach our students the most up-to-date skills that are needed. So all of our career tech instructors are industry-trained instructors. We also want to know what's needed by the industry. So we have advisory committees. Every single one of our programs has an advisory committee made up of post-secondary representations, but more importantly also industry representatives. So they can tell us, we need the students trained in this area, we need this, we need that, and we can then adapt and change with the times. That's so important because, as you know, industry's changing so quickly. We have to be able to do that, and advisory committees are so important to that. Along with the satellite programming and notifying those individuals of what programs are out there, what careers. Better than I can talk about, though, is let's watch the students, and I have a short 1-minute video. Let's get out of that. A little bit of statistics about that, and hopefully you saw the broad range of careers that we offer. But a little bit of statistics is we do a follow-up with all of our seniors January and February after they graduate. And so that's where you saw a lot of that, how many are in college, how many are working, and that's from that one-year follow-up, which I'm proud to say that we touch base with 98.6% of our students that graduate, which is a huge number of students that we have and stay in contact with, and that's through the relationships our teachers build with them. But some district data that you can see there is our enrollment, our credentials earned, which we keep adding more and more industry credentials, and then an increase in our apprenticeship, internship, and advanced placement. Apprenticeship and internship is where students can either work 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. So they actually are on the job full-time for 2 weeks. They come back to CTC for all their academics for 2 weeks. What makes that nice for business and industry is that they never go without someone in the workplace. So we have one student working, one student at school, and they switch, and then they have another student working, another student at school. So that's been a very popular program, and I call it like a test drive to a car, because you get to try these students out to see, are they a correct fit for your business? Are they going to work? And then we can then work on things that they need to improve on through an educational standpoint without any, I guess, business concerns of, oh, I have to fire them or let them go, or those kinds of problems, but we can fix the problems from an educational standpoint. Adult education would be another one, and with adult education, we overlap in many of our programs. You could see from the video that the robotics, the Ramtech, is one of a huge new initiatives, and that's training in 3 different robotics platforms, KUKA, FANUC, and Yaskawa. We use those same training facilities for high school during the day and adults in the evening, and same with our welding. So most of the programs you saw, we also reuse those same labs and same equipment in the evening for training for adults. We have full-time programs that can be 12-month, 20-month programs. There's a list of them there, anything from the construction trades to the LPN and vet assistant, precision machining, welding. And we also have short-term, which are, phlebotomy, or maybe it's EMT, or some of our robotic short-term credentials. We also have a program for students that did not earn their high school diploma that then want to come back and say, I want that high school diploma, which is a powerful program out there. And that's both the Aspire program, which is for GED, but the ADP, the Adult Diploma Program, are for students that are 22 plus years old, did not earn a high school diploma. They can come back, they work with us to get a work key score on work readiness, but then they earn a credential. Those 2 items then get them a high school diploma from Ohio Department of Education. To me, it's a phenomenal program because not only are you getting them a high school diploma, but these students are earning a credential to get them employed. And then we also have, not as many, but some do a credit recovery, which is the 3rd option for those that had not earned a high school diploma, which is another major part of the workforce that we can tap into and get employed. Short video from the adult ed side. Oops, clicked the wrong button here. little bit of statistics on our credentials earned certifications in a full-time program. You look at that and our numbers are dropping. And any ideas why? Because they're working. And that's what is interesting about adult education. As the workforce gets better, as far as the work demand gets higher, there's more demand, more jobs, actually our enrollment drops because they're all full-time working, and that is something that is unique about our adult ed program. It does go in waves depending on what the demand, but it is also nice to know that we do customized training for those places that hire someone that wants further education or further training. But what is also interesting, and I'm proud of, is the ADP program. You can see how we've increased the number of high school diplomas for that ADP program. It's a fairly new program that just started in the 16-17, and as we continue to expand and grow, and we now are up to 80 students that have earned their high school diploma through that program. And as I conclude my section of the panel, just our motto is your future, our passion, and we're committed to providing the skills and for in-demand jobs, and that's what we concentrate on, and we want to meet the industry demands. So as you might have questions later on, please come see me. If you want more information, I have brochures and business cards up here, but we want to help meet the demands of today's jobs through the workforce development. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Deskins. I think this is you. Is that right?
That's great. Thank you very much. Thank you all for coming. Mike, thanks so much for having us. We're really grateful. I need everybody, I know I'm following lunch, so I just need everybody to get up and move 2 seats somewhere. Just get up and get moving again, and then hang on, because I'm going to fly through my material for you today. Let's see if I can find me on the bottom here. To get me started. There we go. Well, thank you all for coming. I'm Dave Deskins. I'm the superintendent at the Greene County Career Center. I'm going to cover a slew of information with you today. I'm going to get into information about the workforce and the development. I'll spend a little less time talking about numbers on certifications and the things that we do to ready for workforce. But we want to help you be aware of the things that are happening in your region here that we're trying to do to provide support. So let me begin. Historically, our Career Center in Greene County, slightly different than Miami Valley CTC because we serve only the 7 districts in one county, so we don't reach across multiple counties. And ultimately, our process began in the 1967 school year. My understanding is, as wet and muddy as it is today, they were pushing trucks around with bulldozers in 1967 to build our original Career Center. We're doing the same thing on a new project we're building right now. And so the reason Career Centers exist in Ohio, just to give you sort of the quick background if you're not in the education world, in the 1950s, education became compulsory. Everyone gets a high school diploma, like it or not. By the early 1960s, about 1/4 of the kids really weren't fitting well in that model. And so states had to figure out, what do we do about this? These kids are coming here, they don't want to be lectured to, they're not making this work, it doesn't fit. And so states had to figure out individually how they wanted to address that challenge. The state of Ohio, the state of Oklahoma, a couple others, decided to create these things called joint vocational schools, where they took that 1/4 of the student population and they put them in hands-on job training programs to get them ready to go straight into workforce because they were just not loving sitting in front of an overhead projector for 8 hours a day, seeing slides that hadn't been updated in 49 years. So career centers were established and came from that history. The joint vocational schools migrated into career centers, compacts, comprehensive schools, and all of us provide workforce training for students to ready them either for college or for workforce. So the programs really are supposed to change to meet the workforce needs. And today, of course, we have to ready students not only for the ability to go into your businesses, but also to get them ready for college futures if that's what they choose. So circa 2014, I arrived back to the Greene County area at the Greene County Career Center. And the very first thing I encountered was a decline in enrollment, trying to understand what was going on. We conducted a study. We found all the students who had previously gone for the past 2 years, asked them kind of, why did you leave? Where are you? Throughout that process, we learned quite a bit. We learned that there was just not enough emphasis on the work skills that people were looking for. We were not doing some things good enough with soft skill development. So I was excited because these were all things that I was really thrilled to be able to step in and try to make a change on. And so while we were doing that, we were sort of trying to figure out, we're going to redefine career tech education in Greene County, Ohio. How's that going to look and what do we need to do? And so in the early 2015 school year, we contracted or applied for a grant with the Ohio Developmental Services Agency. We were successful in receiving a $50,000 grant, and our desire was to do a market analysis of jobs in the Greene County, Dayton region. Specifically, we were curious about what kinds of jobs exist in the market around aerospace, right? We're at the mouth of the Air Force Base here. What are we doing and how are we paying attention to the job needs in that market? So in 2015, we contracted with the Green Tree Group, a company out of Beaver Creek, Ohio. They had actually been involved a number of times with the Air Force Base BRAC investigations. They had strong connectivity to the Air Force and the installations as well as the private industry. And why did this matter to us? For a number of reasons. Wright Pat Air Force Base, third largest installation in the nation, largest recipient of federal research and development funds. People are coming here to do work at our base. And so are we attentive to the jobs and the market needs around that? So the study from Green Tree revealed really four predominant things to us. There were void areas of workforce development happening in the areas of engineering, in information technologies, which we would know in some part as kind of engineering, kind of on a 3D printing, the scale of the replication, the materials, the material handlings, information technology. Specifically, we were seeing in the data that there was a need for software development. There was an enormous need for coders. Kids weren't learning that. Adults didn't know it when they were starting in these workforce jobs. And then manufacturing. Dayton has been a long-time staple of that. But what we haven't done well as career centers, or I believed we hadn't done well, same with us in the community college world, is we didn't adjust well as the market shifted. So when the manufacturing shift transpired and we saw a number of businesses in the Dayton region close, the manufacturing companies were pretty smart about it. They just morphed into other production. But we didn't really keep up with that market. And so the training needs around that were very prevalent in our study, and we realized that it was an important necessity. And then also the area of automation and robotics. Those four areas of data showed the largest job market needs in the region, and then they were coupled with jobs like pilots, airline mechanics, and the healthcare world, which we know in the Dayton area is a big deal as well. You heard Rhonda talk a little bit about the use of advisory committees. Career centers and tech centers in Ohio utilize business advisory members. If you are in a business in the region and you're not a member of one of these, find one of us and become one. These are folks who from industry meet with our instructors at least 2 to 3 times throughout the school year and inform us on what's going on in your business, in your industry. So in the construction carpentry trade, what are the trends? What kinds of skills are students coming out that they need that we're not giving them? That feedback comes directly to our instructors and to our career center through you, our business advisory teams. So you're made up of a number of different kind of backgrounds, but the goal is to make sure we're giving you your product of need. So what do you need your students to know when they walk in on day one and be ready to take off in your workforce? That's pivotal for us. So today's Career Center programming for us looks like this. These are the programs that we offer. Some of these are newer programs. Some of these are programs that have existed since 1967. But you see that there's kind of a move to try to find and identify what are the current market needs and how should we be meeting those. We've got to do a better job of that for all of you. So here's what's coming for us. We're building a new Career Center, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in just a moment. But we are looking at adding programming specific to the study we conducted with the Developmental Services Grant to identify workforce needs around advanced manufacturing and engineering technologies, automation and robotics, cybersecurity, drone technologies, and general and aviation maintenance. So those are programs that our Career Center looks to be adding in the next couple of years, specific again to the data collection from 2015, 2016. So in our effort, we wanted to try to build a new career center for a whole number of reasons in Greene County that would allow us to continue our existing programs but expand our future programming. we discovered as we were looking along the way, because our board was not too keen on the idea of trying to pass a levy, doesn't go over well with all of us, right, in our communities, but we discovered that we felt like there were some other options we could explore. One of those for us was to try to convince the state to modify their current laws and legislation to allow career centers to be eligible for new school construction. Currently, their laws and regulations allow K-12 schools to be built with funds from the state, but career centers are only allowed to use portions of the funds for remodeling purposes only. And that really bothered me. These are public school students. They should have the right to the same kinds of trainings and opportunities and facilities that K-12 students have. And so I took on a silly little task of trying to change law in Ohio. We were actually successful in the 2017 budget bill in getting that language in the governor's version of the budget through the Ohio Senate. It cleared the Senate, it cleared the House, and it actually cleared the conference committee. When it came time for the governor's approval, there were a little over 2,300, actually 2,400 items in that budget bill. Governor Kasich line item vetoed 47 of those items, and one of those was our language that would have allowed a career center each year to be considered for public school funding. So sad was our board. They sent me to the next task. If we can't change the law and we're not eligible for state funds, we'd really rather not go to the voters. Let's see if we can get it from private industry. So the push from us was, are there funds out there for that? The message was loud and clear. We're going to help you equip this. We're going to contribute equipment. We're going to support you with any other kinds of development. We can't pay for new schools to be built. So that message came, and it came pretty strongly from you folks, our business and industry partners. So in November, we had to make a decision in order to decide if we should or shouldn't go to our voters. We conducted in December of 2018, we conducted a survey of residents in Greene County. We found identified registered voters, and we conducted a survey asking them really 3 questions that we wanted to know. Are you familiar with career centers? Do you know what we do? Overall, we were pretty pleased. 77% of our voters in Greene County said, yeah, we get it. We know what you're about. We think what you do is important. We think it has value. Question number 2, this whole idea of moving into aerospace programs. Should we be looking at like automation and robotics and aerospace career programming and drone technologies and cybersecurities? Does that fit this region of Ohio? An overwhelming 90% or higher response rate from our voters said, we absolutely support that. Then as a superintendent comes the hard question. That's all great. You can believe in the Career Center. You can believe in the fact that we should be starting all these programs, but are you willing to help pay for it? Do you as a voter believe it's important enough for our region that you could help support it by way of an increase in your taxes? 59% of the Greene County voters that we polled said, yeah, we believe strongly enough in this, and 41% said no. So we felt at that point like it was time for us to go and ask our voters to weigh in on this. We felt the need to increase and enhance our programming to meet the job market needs for you folks in the region, and our voters seemingly said we probably should support that. So our board made a decision to go on the ballot. In November of 2018, we went on the ballot for 1.03 mills. Our voters voted yes. It was a 55-45 passage for us, but it wasn't without a lot of hard work by a lot of people, a couple of whom I've acknowledged here on the screen. Governor Taft, who's a member of our Business Advisory Board, has been a strong fighter for career tech education. Certainly since he's out of the governor's office, he's become more vocal and strong in that support, and we're very grateful for that. Dr. Cassie Barlow, former base commander, many of you probably know, also a strong supporter and communicator of our efforts. So could not have done it without them. So then it's time. It's time for us to identify where do we put this in Greene County? What should it look like? You see the little GCC segment there. Our Board of Education made a huge kind of effort to undertake where should this really go. Everyone wanted us to come there, of course. This was looking to be a $67 million building project that's currently underway, and so each of the communities were interested in us considering their community. Following an enormous amount of research, our board made the choice that the Xenia community was the right site and pick for this. We feel that we have a great effort to develop a number of other areas and economically make a change in this region. The community of Xenia has been immensely gracious to come forward and offer a number of incentives to try to ensure that we consider their area. It happens to be the most centralized area for the schools in the county, and it is the closest proximity for 5 of the 7 school districts are going to be in a closer proximity at this new location. So the purchase was made of that property, and so the Career Center's efforts began. By the way, we passed the levy in November and we started moving dirt in December. This is a look in late April of the site. You'll notice a lot of track marks on that property. It's wet. February, second largest or second wettest February in Ohio history. We're currently about 16 inches above average rainfall for the state of Ohio. So we literally are pushing vehicles around with other vehicles and tugging and pulling and whatever we have to do. You get a little look at the footprint there of the perimeter of the building. And here's another look a little more recently. This was just a couple of weeks ago, courtesy of the Xenia Fire Department drone technology. The agencies of the fire and police have inquired about the possibility of utilizing our inside drone center once it's established as part of their training as well. This is what's coming, a quick look at the facility, and we hope that everybody will be able to get out and take a look once it's in place. My administrative assistant has way too much fun with the PowerPoint developments. Little worried about this picture because I'm not sure what the guy behind the bushes is doing there late at night. Looks like a creeper. Here's a peek of the inside. This is going to be the area where we're going to be providing engineering type of training. We'll be doing UAS in here. So you'll see a deck where students will be able to fly drones and technologies. We'll have robotics equipment throughout this space. We'll also use this space for things like 3D printing and other types of activities. Another quick look at that area. Yes, she had way too much fun. We really tried to build this so that we could plan and stay in touch with your needs in the future. So all of our space has an immense effort of flexibility. We wanted to be able to build it, modify it, use it for current labs or future labs. We wanted to kind of ready it for the next generation. This is a big project. It's a 264,000 plus square feet. And again, it's going to be at the intersection of 35 and US 68 in the city of Xenia. As if one project is not enough for those of you in this world, we were kind and gracious enough to apply for some dollars through the Dayton Development Coalition a year ago, also in the state capital dollar effort, trying to see if we could obtain funds to build an airline hangar at the Greene County Airport, because you'll recall airline mechanics and pilots are in huge need in our region. Well, it was a great call. We were lucky enough through the Dayton Development Coalition to have received an $850,000 grant. We have designed and just this week had our first pre-bid meeting or pre-open bid meeting on the airline hangar that will be getting built at the same time at the Greene County Airport. That's going to allow us to start an airline mechanic program there for 11th and 12th grade students. This is a peek of what that space is going to look like. A pretty unique airline hangar. It's going to have actual classroom space, storage space, and then a separated lab space, but still with great visibility and attachment so that it's right on the airport and can be utilized as both an instructional setting and a lab for students to learn in. A peek of what that facility is tentatively going to look like as well, and we're very excited, except we're not sure how old those planes are, and any other bird but buzzards would have been good for me in the far right corner. That concludes my portion of the presentation. Again, thank you for your time. Thanks for having us, and Michael Deis, I turn it over to you from Ohio University.
All right, let me get my presentation up here. So I'll be like Dave, I will fly through this as quickly as I can so we leave enough time for questions. So I was just sitting here listening to Dave. We need, instead of I-70, 75, you need to add 35 because I'm talking about Greene County too. So you need to, we are part of the Dayton region over in Greene County, and we've got a lot of really good activities happening. And so, one of the questions is, why is Ohio University in Beaver Creek in the Dayton area? That's we still get that question a lot, even though we've actually been here for 8 years now, but we've only seriously been working on what I'm about to share with you for the last 3 years. And I'll get to that in a minute. But Ohio University has a strategy they call Ohio for Ohio. We have actually built 2 new campuses, one in Cleveland in partnership with Cleveland Clinic, and one in Dublin in partnership with Ohio Health Network. Some interesting facts: Ohio University, it's an osteopathic school for doctors and nursing and all of that. But interesting facts: Ohio University has the largest graduation rate of medical doctors in the state of Ohio out of all the university hospital programs. They have the largest nursing program in the state of Ohio now up in Dublin, which was the primary reason that campus was built. We're now in Beaver Creek, and we're primarily extending our College of Engineering programs into the Dayton region. And obviously we're very interested in Beaver Creek, or in Wright Pat. We're able to do this through, some of you, if you've been have been in the Dayton area long enough, may have known Fritz and Dolores Russ. They had a company where we're currently located called Systems Research Labs. They founded it in 1955. They grew it over 4 decades. They had around 2,000 employees. To the base, they were the second largest employer in Greene County for many years on there. Fritz decided to retire, sold the company. Company basically got bought and sold 2 more times and disappeared. He kept the property though, and he turned it into an incubator. So Fritz was doing incubation, supporting entrepreneurs and small businesses before people talked about having incubators and doing it. And there are probably a good 24 companies in the Dayton region that are in business today because of Fritz and Dolores and what they did to support them. When they passed away, Dolores passed away in 2007, the university found out that they were the recipients in a large gift of their entire estate. And that estate consisted of the Russ Research Center, as we call it now, which was the former Systems Research Labs property. And this is kind of the lower part in the gray. That's the existing property. We have 9 buildings, 194,000 square feet of office lab space. We're looking for partners. If anyone in the audience needs a place to come and set up business, I would love to talk to you afterwards. When we received the gift, we were actually over 90% occupied. But the problem was, while that was a great problem to have, the university couldn't do anything with it because there wasn't any space for us to do anything. So we deliberately began letting the occupancy drop down. And we got down to just below 50%, and that was 3 years ago. And that's when we said, okay, now it's time to change. And we're changing from what was just a pure tenant-landlord relationship to what we now call resident partners. And we are seeking high-tech companies that are interested in the same technology domains that Ohio University is interested in. And we want to make space available to you. We're interested in partnering on research with these companies. We're interested in these companies bringing our students on as interns and ultimately hiring our students there. That's already happening. We've had 5 new companies come in the last year. All but one have hired our students as interns. 2 of them have now begun hiring our students full-time, and that's the model we're trying to create out there. In addition to all the building space, we have 60 acres of land as well that we will be developing. We break ground on our first new building in July, so we're planning on eventually replacing all of the older buildings and having new buildings on this site. Change gears just a little bit, and part of why OU wants to be in the Dayton region, if you're from Dayton, you know this history. Hey, we were the greatest technology area for decades, and of course it kind of went downturn for a few years when we lost some of our big industry partners here in the Dayton area. But I got to tell you, I think we're turning it around. I think Dayton's finally getting it. I think we're seeing some really tremendous things happening both downtown and outside the downtown area. We hope to be part of that change over time. And of course, a lot of it is leveraged around Wright Pat and all the great work that goes on there. So we want to build on that legacy. The other reason we're over in Dayton, Dayton is the #4 area for engineering, concentration of engineers in the United States. That's a lot of engineers, and we need to be creating the jobs, we need to be creating the companies that can support and even grow this to where we're better than #4 in the country. And we have the ability to do that if we take that challenge on. The way OU's looking at this, and some of our partners out at the Russ Research Center, is we're great in white-collar jobs, we're great in blue-collar jobs. I am thrilled to see what the two career centers are doing, because they're doing what we call new-collar jobs. And that is, the jobs of the future, you got to know how to work with software, computers. It's just not adequate to be a machinist that stands at a machine all day. That industry is disappearing, and it's disappearing pretty rapidly. And if we don't train that workforce, and I'm not saying we still have the workforce today, because all of our companies are dying for employees right now, and especially in the trades, so we got to continue that going. But we've also got to be thinking about what does that future workforce development look like. And so one of the things we're looking at is, with this new collar workforce idea, how do we begin to grow that new workforce by building on the foundations of the blue collar and the white collar, but begin to teach the skills that are going to be needed for that future new collar workforce. Dave's actually touched on it, and I would love to see your report on what you did there, because it really is the case that we've got to start training that. And the key point that Dave made, and I believe this 100%, is we have to do that in partnership with industry. If industry does not come to the table with us on how to create these new curriculum for training that new workforce, it's not going to work. We'll just keep pumping out the same old stuff we've been doing. And I'm really speaking to the 4-year universities in that, not the career centers or the 2-year schools. But it's not adequate for us to keep teaching the same thing and turning out students who can't come on the job on day one and be able to do real work. And at OU, we're really committed to begin to make that change as a 4-year institution. So we're looking and doing partnerships all the way from K-12 through Ph.D. So we've been doing things like partnering with the Dayton STEM School. We're doing things, we've got matriculation agreements with Clark State. We're doing shared coursework where we can develop things at the 2-year school level, and then accept all that to go into a 4-year degree, to cut that time down to get to the 4-year degree. So we're exploring all these ideas. But it goes to this idea of how do you change the career development path and the education path and do things. So some interesting things that are coming out is this idea of digital badges, and it starts at the grade school level. You know, it could start at going to a technology summer camp and getting educations, and that student then gets something called a digital badge or credential, as one of you or both of you said. You do that, but it gets captured and it follows that individual through their entire career development and their education, and it gets built upon. Not only that they just checked a box that I took this class or did that, but it's like, what was the challenge you were given in that class? How did you solve it? What was the result? And capturing that so a future employer can say, wow, tell me about how you did this. And not just, oh, you took this course or you got this certificate, that's great. It's what did you really do to solve that problem? Because that's what our future workforce needs. They need individuals who can think, who can solve problems, who can create things, and who are not afraid to take risk and afraid of failure, because that's what we need. And you know, if we don't change the way that we're doing things from an academic perspective, then we're going to continue not turning out the right kind of students to go out there and fulfill the jobs that are there. One of the things we're doing at Russ Research Center, we're standing up a fab lab out there, if you've heard of that. This is not just a makerspace. This is, I call it a makerspace on steroids. It takes a lot of things of what, well, both of you have in your career centers, what you're going to have in your future career center, and basically puts the training on real, no kidding, equipment and systems that are being used by our industry partners out there. And we want to help build the curriculum on that. So one of the things we've been talking about for this Fab Lab is we'd have GE Aviation would bring one of their 3D metal additives machine. We got 2 other metals additives that said, hey, we'll bring our machine. They're different from GE Aviation's. And so now we're creating partnerships. Wow, this would be great if we have 3 of the additive machines that are being used in industry. And guess what? We'll develop the curriculum according to your needs, and you can send your employees here to get trained before you even put them on your manufacturing floor. And so when they walk out that first day, they're trained and know how to use your equipment. That's the kind of student we need to be able to be putting out to industry. And it starts, and it's got to be a collaboration and a partnership that does start in the middle school level and the high school and the 2-year degrees. But the key is at the bottom down there. The foundation has to be from our industry partners of what do you need in your workforce. And if you can't help define that, then we're not going to put out the right students for you. Then it builds on these various certificate programs or credentials or digital badges, whatever terminology you want to use. But those all add up to where you can, those students who want to do more than just maybe getting a certificate in CNC operation, maybe they want to go get their 2-year degree. Then they go back to work and do that for a while. Then they may learn, you know what, I really do want to take what I've done in this 2-year program. I want to go get my engineering degree. And it's basically putting the right things in place so that instead of having to repeat a lot of coursework and things over, you build on what that student has done in the past and give them credit for that past work they've done, for their work experience and for their education that they've done. And we're not the only 4-year university looking at this, but we've become real believers that this is the direction we need to go for workforce development and for training and educating that workforce that's going to be needed in the coming years. So with that, we'll get panel up here, and hopefully we've got time for questions, so so we'll do that.
So as the panels get situated, questions for them? Jessica.
Can you expand on, I know you mentioned your business advisory committees that one of you have parents involved. Can you talk about how you engage the parents, particularly in the middle school age? They're maybe not so enlightened as to what career centers really look like today.
Go ahead and go first, and you can add on. Try to get this microphone to work. Does it work when I hold the button in, or is that okay? Sorry about that. Let's get used to the microphone. Yes, what we do is on each of our advisory committees, we have what we representatives from a variety of areas, and one being parents. And those are parents of current students, so they can then give a perspective of what they're currently doing, what they would like to be done. But it is extremely important, especially at the middle school, to get them involved. It is more difficult but the best way is that we offer it to every single middle school. So, for example, 7th grade at one of our local districts, every single 7th grader will go through the STEM program, which is Project Lead the Way, Design and Modeling. And so by students experiencing those hands-on learning projects, and my famous saying is, we teach them it's okay to make mistakes, going to what was just shared a little bit earlier, is that's a big part of what our students need to learn is it's okay to make mistakes because you learn from those mistakes. And that's what this Project Lead the Way middle school program does. But yes, having them exposed is probably the best way we reach the parents, but also we do include them so that they can give feedback of what they're hearing at home and serving on the advisory committees. I'll let Dr. Deskins.
No, that's great. Similarly, we began an initiative through the Beaver Creek City Schools. It was in conjunction with a grant that they applied for with the Ohio Department of Education and they received $1 million grant that was utilized to provide training to about 180 teachers in the Greene County region through a teacher-led air camp in partnership with the air camp that's here in the region. So this was a customized camp that allowed about 180 of the teachers at all grade levels in Greene County to come and get exposure to different aerospace concepts and technologies that culminated with all of them, yes, flying airplanes over Greene County. And so then the goal is to bring those educators back, have them develop curriculum that can expose students at every grade level to aerospace types of technologies and careers. And so then in conjunction with that, the Beaver Creek City Schools, along with the Greene County Career Center, established a Project Lead the Way engineering pathway for aerospace for the students. So the last year, every 7th grade student in the Beaver Creek schools took 1 semester of app design and development and 1 semester of flight and space. We also offer automation and robotics, and so we've seen dozens and dozens of the middle school kids in that district that are now competing on robotics teams. In fact, our middle schoolers just qualified to go to nationals against high school teams in their first year of competition. So exposure to the middle grades is pivotal. We've found particularly to moms. So mamas tend to make a lot of the decisions about the kids and where they're going to go for education. So we work really hard to try to help them understand the career paths for these students. And we try to get them into our building so they can see what we do. Getting in there and seeing the hands-on piece in a career center is probably our best marketing strategy.
Yep, I agree with that. One of the things, though, for a lot of parents, is particularly in the manufacturing domain, is if you're an older parent, you have a perception of what it means to be in manufacturing. It's dirty, it's dark, it's greasy, it's a terrible environment to work. Well, that's so far from the truth today in our manufacturing and facilities around there, especially when you start getting into the robotics environments, the 3D additive capability. My son happens to be a machinist, and he's actually complaining because stuff's getting too clean. So he's experiencing that change in his real life. But yeah, we've got to get to the parents as well. It's not just getting the kids involved, but it's getting the parents involved. And this past summer, we held our first manufacturing summer camp out at the Russ Research Center, and part of what we did was we had a couple of tours to manufacturing facilities in the area, and plus our partners at Russ opened their doors up, and we invited parents along with the students to come and see those environments to begin to help with some of that education and get the parents on board, because there are thousands and thousands of very good paying jobs out there that are going unfilled right now, because this is Mike Deis speaking now, not Ohio University, because they would shoot me. I am not an academic. I'm an engineer. And we as a nation have gone way overboard in the thought that everyone has to have a 4-year degree. Everyone is not cut out to have, to go get a 4-year degree. And like I said, we've got thousands of jobs that are begging out there because we don't have the right skill sets that have been developed through our education system.
And I would say that messaging, you all are carrying it. In addition to parents who are tired of their kids coming out with an $80,000 to $100,000 college debt and no real step into a career, our legislators and our state leaders and our federal leaders are hearing you, the business and industry folks, saying enough is enough. We need help. We need workers. We need a different focus. So your message is loud and clear, really important for that as well.
When it comes to the partnership with the K-12 system and building a workforce with industry, what is the most exciting thing you guys have seen so far in 2019 when it comes to partnerships? I know you touched on using an asset like AirCamp, but I'm just curious what you're excited about.
Yeah, one comes to mind immediately for me. One of my business advisory members is Brady Templeton, who's the CEO of Ames Airborne, the airport in Wilmington, in need of about 150 airline mechanic types of trained workers, who basically said, if you get an airline hangar built at the Greene County Airport, we're going to do whatever it takes to equip it to make sure that you have everything you need to start putting workers out into our workforce. They've been involved all along in helping us design this. They've been readied, helping and donating equipment and getting this ready to take off because they're going to benefit from it. Probably the most exciting thing for me has been watching business and industry come to the table and say, we're in, and we mean it. That's really powerful for us because it allows us to do the things that get the right messages in front of kids. Because here, you know, we held for the first time a signing at the Career Center. So you may have seen these with sports and student athletes. About 3 weeks ago, we had a signing at the Career Center, and the owner of Chapel Electric, who's a former graduate of our Career Center, came in and sat down with students and individually signed work contracts with them, sharing their income and what these kids were going to be doing leaving high school, and then proceeded to announce, I'm so committed to this, I'm hiring 20 of your students to work on your new building handling the electrical wiring. It doesn't get any better than that kind of engagement from a business partner. So that would have been my most exciting.
It is a very exciting time with business and industry, and I appreciate everyone that has stepped up to help, and I think it's a partnership that we need to continue on both sides. One example is we have developed a partnership with Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and yes, we've talked about the aeronautical, and we've talked about a lot of the engineering side of Wright-Patterson, but they came to us saying, we need skilled trade. We have this huge complex, and we have no one to do our HVAC, our electrical, our heavy equipment. So they've worked with us and partnered within this year that they're going to be hiring apprentices through our construction trades electrical program to work next year for Wright-Patterson, again, training the workforce of today and the future, and that has been a real powerful. Which came from that also is an Employer Tuesday, because we had so many people coming to us wanting to talk to our students. So what we do is we actually allow business and industries to come in on Tuesday, which next year we're going to expand Tuesday and Thursday, set up in our cafeteria, talk to students because every student has a lunch. So they set up a table, and then they can talk and have those conversations with students on a weekly basis. Different companies come in and get the word out. But it's really powerful, I feel, and I've been in career tech since 1995, so 24 years now, that we're to the point where it's such a partnership. We're working together, we're talking, we're having the conversations, and that's a very powerful place to be right now.
Yep, and one more example, and this is with AFRL on base and the Dayton Regional STEM School. So their AFRL has moved what they call the Grill Lab, which is basically a virtual reality, augmented reality, research, autonomy, flight simulators, and they have actually moved that all out to the Dayton Regional STEM School. And that's being inserted as part of their curriculum at the middle school and high school levels. So that's another partnership that's occurring. So there are a lot of tremendous examples like that going on right now.
Please be sure to know this isn't just one-way request. It's not always the school saying, can you help, can you give, can you do? On my way into this session, I was on the phone with the corporate headquarters for Salon Lofts. They're a cosmetology business that rents space in Beaver Creek, whose building was destroyed severely damaged by the tornadoes that came through this week. Tomorrow morning, we were coordinating their start of using our cosmetology classroom for their salon specialists so that they have a place to be able to maintain their workforce. They hire our people. Why would we not share our space? So those are the kinds of reciprocal things that happen, and we've got to continue them, as Rhonda and Mike have both shared. Mike, thanks for having us today. Really appreciate it.
All right, in terms of housekeeping, the final closing speaker